And we'll go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone. Noswaith Paub, and welcome to our second night of Elections Hustings. Last night, we met our Education, Welfare, and Societies and Services Officer candidates. Tonight, it's the turn of our President candidates, Welsh Affairs Officer candidates, and Sports Officer candidates. Following the same pattern as last night, each candidate will have the chance to give a short speech, followed by questions from the Students' Union. We'll then open it up to the virtual floor. So if you have any questions for the candidates, please do submit them to us through the Q&A function on the webinar. And we'll pick two of them to be asked to the candidates. Without further ado, if I could request that our President candidates turn on their cameras. First up, we have our President Officer candidates. We have Jonathan Morgan, Katie Phillips, and Georgie Arnett. There is a fourth candidate running as well. Unfortunately, Rashmi could not make it tonight due to health issues. And so please do keep an eye out for all of our candidates' manifestos on the Students' Union page when they go live. We will be starting with our little speeches, our introduction speeches from the candidates. So I will be screen sharing a timer just to kind of help everybody keep an eye on what they're doing for their introduction speeches. And Jonathan, whenever you're ready, go ahead and start, and I'll start the timer. Just make sure to unmute yourself.
Yeah, hiya. Yeah, are we ready?
Ready?
Yeah, okay. Hello guys, I'm Jonathan Morgan, 36-year-old second-year law student at the university, and I'm standing as a president to represent and fight and protect, to defend all students' human rights and constitutional rights on and off campus, whilst trying to liaise with the university and Swansea Council in terms of 5G and the electromagnetic radiation frequencies that it transmits off, to allow students to come back onto campus without being affected by the EMFs. And then vaccinations, I will try my utmost best to implement a non-vaccination policy whereby students can come back onto campus with peace of mind without having to think about or be forcibly or coerced to be vaccinated. And then the last point, I would just like to say that I would also be advocating to eliminate the mask wearing social distancing policy on campus as it stands. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jonathan. Next up, we'll have Katie. Whenever you're ready, feel free to start.
Hi, I'm Katie, your current Welsh Affairs Officer. I was adapted to working in a global pandemic by immersing myself in every training opportunity and networking with as many people as possible in the SU, university and NUS. I've helped protect the financial future of the union as a trustee. I've been innovative in creating digital events such as the St. David's Day Festival, and I'm on track to complete all my manifesto points. I'm passionate and determined to support all students, and have shown this with all the extra projects and campaigns I've worked on this year, being involved in changes to the extenuating circumstances policy and creating a new sustainability policy for the SU. I've aimed to be as transparent as possible and have shared detailed monthly and weekly updates so that students can get a better idea of what I'm up to and ask me any questions. My manifesto points spread across a wide range of topics, including mental health, liberation and sustainability. My key aim, if I'm elected president, is to continue strengthening the union's relationship with the university, to reintroduce Refreshers Week and allow students to self-certify for extensions after the pandemic ends. Diolch.
That is fantastic. Thank you very much, Katie. And Georgie, whenever you're ready.
Brilliant. Hi, I'm Georgie and I'm in my second year doing international relations. I'm maybe newer to university politics, but I'm equally passionate to use my voice for change. I'm active in the cross-country club and athletics club and have done quite a lot of charity work for the uni. What really gave me the inclination to run for this role was probably the frustration that I had with the lecturers and like the staff and going between students and the information exchange between students and staff. But obviously the PTOs and the FTOs have done a really good job at this. but it kind of reminded me of the adaptation that the union and the university has to have in times as such. And it really incentivized me to want to be involved with this change. There was so much that I wanted to include in my manifesto, but I had to be optimistic and realistic. So a few of my select points were to improve the safety around the campus, to educate students on and the faculty on race and issues regarding racism. And I also wanted to improve the employability. Oh, sorry. Can I finish that point?
Go ahead.
I wanted to improve the employability, like links post like COVID for graduates. So,
Thank you, Georgie.
brilliant, thank you.
So thank you everyone for your introductions. Next up, we'll move on to our first question from the Students' Union. So question 1 is, as president, you are the figurehead of the union. Therefore, what leadership qualities do you possess to lead the union, and how would you raise awareness of what the union does for students? And we'll start with Jonathan.
Oh, hiya. Yes, I believe I possess leadership qualities in the sense of presenting clear values and being assertive, whilst being very hardworking and communicating with other representatives and being passionate about what I stand and believe in 100%. And also I would be fair, reasonable and effective with all my decisional making if I was elected as a president. I would be honest, reliable, trustworthy and loyal to the union and each representative and to all the students. And finally, I would just like to empower people with knowledge about numerous topics and subjects. And finally, protect and defend ultimately every student's human rights. And then, yes, so going back to raising awareness of how I would raise awareness for the union would be via social media. So I would campaign on social media to demonstrate what and how we do at the union.
Thank you, Jonathan. Next, if we could have Katie.
So I've adapted to learning online in the last few months of my degree, and I also started a full-time job as Welsh Affairs Officer whilst working from home during a global pandemic. And this has taught me that I'm a highly resilient person and I try to make the best of every situation. And when I started the job last time, I went to countless free online training sessions, webinars, to equip me with the skills needed as an officer and a trustee, and also adapting everything to like a virtual world. So I'm passionate and hardworking, and I feel like I've thrived in my role this year. I'll be able to deal with the demands of a president as I've taken on many extra projects this year, in addition to working on my manifesto, dealing with the projects within my remit and dealing with the pandemic by sitting on the COVID operational groups and having regular meetings with the key stakeholders in the university. I've prioritised establishing these strong relationships, as I said, with key stakeholders, the senior leadership team, as working with the university is key in ensuring sustainable and positive change for all students. And as the president is a trustee of both the Students' Union and the university, I think it's vital in ensuring there is a strong working relationship. And in regards to the second part of the question, with raising awareness of what the union does, one of my manifesto points actually is to expand on the SU platforms that we use, so like the social media platforms, into YouTube, TikTok, Discord. Those are just some of the communication streams I was thinking of, as at the moment we mostly use Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, and we are missing a lot of students that don't use these platforms. And I know that a lot of our reps have said that they use Discord, so I think that would be a good way to engage their students.
Thank you, Katie. And Georgie?
Brilliant. So some of my leadership qualities probably be, I really care about like what other people think, and I love understanding what drives people. I've done quite a bit like over the summer about in finance, so I think I'd probably be I've grown up quite a lot this summer in like learning about like business and how businesses work. So I think, oh sorry, I'll speak up a little bit. I think that I've been learning quite a lot this summer about what really happens in like businesses and stuff like that. So I think that would make me a lot, like it would give me a bit of an insight into a role of a president. So some of the ways I would raise awareness would be I'd probably move more onto Canvas. I've really enjoyed like the change from Blackboard to Canvas. I feel like it's a lot simpler to understand, and I would probably put more on there, make things more accessible on Canvas, and probably have workshops and like about what's going on in the union on Canvas. I was just throwing out a few ideas. Maybe each week we have like a themed thing to learn about what a different aspect of the union, which I think is currently going on in the university, but if we can make it more accessible to students, I think that would be great. And perhaps we implement like training into what the union does for freshers to get them, incentivize them to like become more involved in the union. I also think that it's great that online it's really easy to anonymize things. So again, we can incentivize people to come along to these things, and they don't necessarily have to ask questions, but they can like remain anonymous and learn more about what's going on inside the union. I don't know all the answers, but I kind of just want to like ask around, and I think it's really important that we just ask what people want in the university. So.
Thank you, Georgie. And moving on to the second question from the union, which states, as president of the Students' Union, you represent the entire student body on various boards within the university. How would you ensure that your engagement represents the diverse student body that Swansea is proud to have? And we'll start with Georgie.
Well, I mentioned in my manifesto, I grew up all over the world, so I'm a third culture individual. And so there's many ways there's Swansea's student body is so diverse. We've got first, second, third. I think someone said yesterday they're in their 10th year of uni. We've obviously got different people from different races, different religions, sexual orientations, and then we can diversify through hobbies and stuff. So we've got over 100 societies in the union. I think this would take a lot of thought. We'd have to proactively think what some of these groups are easier to access their views than others. And realistically, I think for me, it would be important to probably make a stakeholder map and understand who's not getting the representation that they deserve. And therefore, I would probably seek out those who deserve that representation and want, can finally hear their views and let their views be heard. But I think I've fully supported all the protests recently for BLM, and I think for me, really recently, I think yesterday even, Nike produced an advert which was, they posted an advert on their Instagram which was Stop Asian Hate, and I think it's really important that we speak up about issues that are basically meaning that minority groups are underrepresented, and I think that this year has been really good, and I really want to encourage to continue that throughout the union.
Thank you, Georgie. And next, if we could go to Katie, please.
So in my role as an officer, I already sit on various boards and committees, and I've also chaired several meetings throughout my year. And I think that working with part-time officers and reps is essential in ensuring that we receive engagement from our diverse body of students. And ensuring that boards and committees are diverse is also key, so that they can represent all of our student body. So we need mentoring and training opportunities for women and BME staff, for example, who want to go for roles on boards and committees, but they might need that extra support and encouragement to go for these positions. And hopefully then we can get more diverse committees and boards. And I've shown my dedication and passion for supporting students from all backgrounds by working on several equality projects this year, such as Disability History Month, I've been working on staff allyship workshops, and I worked on introducing the pronouns to the SU staff emails, so I'm really happy with that. And I'm always looking for ways to feed back the student voice to the university and to make change. And I also set up the opinion panel at Ramp Your Voice for Disability History Month, and due to its success, I'm actually continuing it once a term now. And I value listening to individuals' experiences rather than just looking at data to help inform what we do, and having these kind of opinion panels, listening to the students' experiences, really helps when taking that message to senior leadership and key stakeholders in the university.
Thank you very much, Katie. At this point in time, let me just see what my elections team has told me about what questions we might have to ask you as well. And it looks like we do indeed have some. And so first up, we have, so first up we have, how would you work with the union and the university to ensure that students are more employable as graduates than instead of graduates of another university? So just to repeat that, and also at any point in time, if you'd like me to repeat it, please don't hesitate to ask. How would you work with the union and university to ensure that students are more employable as graduates of Swansea University than as graduates of other universities? And if we could start with Jonathan.
Hello, hi. Can you repeat that question again? Sorry. Oh,
Of course.
sorry.
How would you work with the union and the university to ensure that students are more employable as graduates of Swansea University than as graduates of other universities?
Ooh, interesting question. I'll have to pass now, and I can't answer that. Sorry, I can't. It's just gone blank.
That's okay, Jonathan.
Do apologise.
It's okay. Katie?
I think that's quite a broad question, so there could be so much that comes under it, but I think one of the main things is there's already so many opportunities in the university that are just not promoted well enough. So there's lots of like pots of money around the university that can help students with like buying like clothes for interviews. I know the entrepreneurship team have lots of money to help students start up businesses, and the Go Global team as well give money for students to do internships, and I did a volunteering placement with them in Fiji, and they paid for it, and I wouldn't have been able to afford it without that. So I think, you know, promoting these opportunities and the funding opportunities as well, so that students can be more employable. And one of my manifesto points as well is to provide more opportunities to student staff. I was a student staff for the union, and I worked in JCs and I worked on reception, and I think it would have been valuable to have more maybe employability sessions and understanding more the union's goal, as it did feel a bit separate to the commercial side, and also having more placements, as we've started having more in the union. But I think, yeah, having more placements for students within the union and university.
Thank you very much. Katie and Georgie?
I definitely agree with Katie that there are so many amazing opportunities that are just not exposed to us as students. But I was also thinking that I was reading the other day that in a survey done by the BBC News that over 50% of companies are like post-COVID are currently looking to employ new people. And I think by creating links with these companies, then we can like help create more opportunities to give those students like a broader range of opportunities that they want to grasp and that they want to take and like become more employable. And perhaps maybe that's not necessarily getting paid jobs at first, or internships, but I think anything's like, it's just creating an opportunity and a direction that you, or as a student, as an individual, wants to go into. And I think by looking at the opportunities, assessing what students want, what opportunities they would love to have, would be the main idea to like how to become more employable. as a different university, because you'd want Swansea would then therefore be interacting with these different companies to create links and show what their students are doing and how, like, basically create a more personalized experience between a university and their company and their students, and triangulate through.
Thank you. And apologies, I think I missed a line on my script, and I believe that Jonathan, you didn't have a chance to answer the second question from the union. So if you'd like to do so now, please do. I'll just remind everybody that's listening and watching that the second question from the union was, as president of the Students' Union, you represent the entire student body on various boards within the university. How would you ensure that your engagement represents the diverse student body that Swansea is proud to have? And apologies.
Yes. I would like to ensure to demonstrate equality, fairness, transparency, openness and honesty with each representative of each student union body to in ways in which we can tackle to improve issues and or by resolution. So finding a medium kind of way to try and, you know, tackle issues and by cooperation. So everybody, you know, putting some work into it, input, and then trying to find a resolution equally amongst us, coming to the best possible decision.
Thank you, Jonathan. And then just a second, let me see if we have a second question indeed from the floor. Yes, and we do. So once again, I'm happy to repeat it as often as you'd like. But the second question we have from the floor is, as president of the Students' Union, you will be in a position to influence the actions of the students in the university. How will you ensure that you set a good example and encourage students to act responsibly during the global pandemic? Just to repeat it, as president of the Students' Union, you will be in a position to influence the actions of the students in the university. How will you ensure that you set a good example and encourage students to act responsibly during the pandemic? And we'll start with Georgie, if that's okay.
Of course. So I was thinking that it would probably be the best thing to do, and the university are already doing a very good job of it, but explaining and education on the consequences of breaking like the law and like acting responsibly. And like the causes of COVID are pretty dire. I mean, I had it, and I had to have physio after it. And I think by educating what can actually happen if you do break the law, I think that's probably the best way to go about explaining to and incentivizing these students to act as such and like act responsibly, pretty much, just through education, which is what my point.
Thank you, Georgie. And next, if we could go to Katie.
I think it's really important to have regular communication, not just in the university, but the union. We've been posting a lot on social media, and I think, like I said before, about having different platforms where we share the message and continuously update students on what the regulations are, because I know there's often a lot of confusion, and reminding students as well that at the beginning of the academic year, they did sign the student charter, which, you know, said how to behave within the pandemic. And yeah, I think those are two of the key things.
Thank you very much. And Jonathan.
Yes. I'd like to endorse a fair policy, although being kind of disciplined and firm and showing students that you can't act inappropriately on campus, but each one of us must recognize the difficulties each student is going through. So we've got to try and implement a fair policy whilst trying to discipline them in the best possible way, because we've got to take into account, you know, we've never gone through this situation in life, none of us. So it's affected each and every one of us in some sort of way or another. So I can't comprehend how significantly has badly affected the students, and especially being on campus and then being imprisoned with all that stress, missing your families, being locked in your rooms or limited contact with people. You know, this has never happened in history. So the plan going forward is to try and encourage students to come back on campus and implement the pledges I've pledged in my manifesto, but then obviously I'm reiterating that every student has got to try and act in accordance with the law by being fair and acting, you know, lawfully on campus. But we've got to take into consideration the impact and their need for human contact. And I think that's imperative. And they're still they've just ventured into adulthood. So they're still kind of transforming and developing themselves. So I think human contact is absolutely fundamental, and we should not, under no circumstances, deprive them of that, because they're still learning and developing.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thanks extended to all of our president candidates that could be with us this evening. And it is really great to kind of start getting an inclination as to what it is that you will be hoping to accomplish if you're elected. So thank you very much. A reminder that your presidential candidates are Jonathan Morgan, Katie Phillips, Georgie Annett, and Rashmi Kunwani. And thank you very much. So if you at this point in time could please turn off your cameras, and if I could invite our Welsh Affairs candidates to turn on their cameras. So next up, we have our Welsh Affairs candidates. We have Gwern Davis and we have Sophie Williams. Welcome and thank you for being here this evening. For those of you in attendance, due to the nature of this position, candidates will be given 2 minutes to give their introductory speeches so that they can do it both in English and in Welsh. And when answering questions, it is entirely their choice as to how they choose to do it, either answering in either language or a combination of both. So let me just set up the timer, and then in a moment, Gwern, we'll start with you if that's okay. So Gwern, whenever you're ready, feel free to start.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, I'm Gwern. I'm very keen to represent the university as your Welsh Affairs officer for the coming year. By now, I'm a fourth year accounting and finance student. Originally from Talgarreg, it's been instilled in me that Welsh is absolutely integral to the people of Wales, whether you're a Welsh speaker or not. The language has been a very important part of my life, and the university has offered me many opportunities to implement the language. For example, being elected president of the Welsh Society, in addition to a year in industry for the NHS in Carmarthen. Being elected as Welsh Affairs officer would be a special opportunity for me to give back to the university and to all the students that have shaped my life here at the university in Swansea. If elected, my intention will be to roll up my sleeves and ensure that Welsh students receive the same support and resources as all other students. I also intend on expanding the work already made by the union to make the uni more bilingual. My main aim, although, will be to work closely with the Coleg Cymraeg and Academy Hardship to increase the range of subjects that offer modules and resources in Welsh, as I didn't have this opportunity myself. There needs to be an equal opportunity for all, and I'm keen to push this message for the coming year. Nawr i pobl sy'n siarad Cymraeg, Caia, enw fi yw Gwern, a fi'n awyddus i gynrychioli'r brifysgol fel swyddog materion Cymraeg yn flwyddyn sy'n dod. Erbyn hyn, rwyf yn astudio cyfrifeg a llythyr yn y brifysgol, mae'n dweud ar flwyddyn. Yn reiddiol Dalgarreg, mae wedi gwreiddio yna i fod y Gymraeg yn gwbl anatod i bywydau pobl yng Nghymru. Mae'r iaith wedi bod yn rhan bwysig iawn y mywyd i, a mae'r brifysgol wedi cynnig sawl cyfle i ni i weithredu trwy'r iaith, megis bod yn lywydd ar y gymgym yn ogystal â blwyddyn mewn gwaith i'r gig yng Nghaerfyrddin. Mi fydd cael fy ethol fel swyddog materion Cymraeg yn gyfle arbennig i mi i roi yn ôl i'r brifysgol ac i'r holl myfyrwyr sydd wedi siapo yn amser i yma. Pe bai fy mod yn cael fy ethol, rwy'n addo torch y llewis a sicrhau bod myfyrwyr Cymraeg yn cael yr un cefnogaeth a unrhyw myfyrwyr arall yn y brifysgol. Byddaf hefyd yn blydu ehangu ar y gwaith sydd wedi cael ei gwneud yn barod. Fy mwriad gorau yw i weithio yn agosach gyda Coleg Cymraeg a Academi Hardship i gynyddu'r ymwneud pwyllgau sy'n cynnig modiwlau a hynodau yn y Gymraeg am o fi heb cael y cyfle fi. Mae angen cyfle cyfartal i bawb a rwy'n ymwyddus i wrthio'r neges yma dros y flwyddyn nesaf. Diolch.
Thank you. And Sophie, whenever you're ready.
So, hiya, Sophie dwi, a dwi'n fyfyrwraig drydydd flwyddyn sy'n astudio'r Gymraeg. Bydde eisiau i redeg am y rôl yn sylwi cyn lleiad o ddefnydd o'r Gymraeg gan y Brifysgol byddwn yn angerddol iawn i hybu newid. Felly tra'n astudio nes i wahodd yr is-ganghellor i gyflwyniad ar y diffyg defnydd o'r Gymraeg a nodi pwyntiau allweddol yr hoffaf wella. Dwi wedi mynychu cyfarfodydd efo swyddogion polisi iaith Gymraeg a swyddogion yr undeb yn mwyn lleisio fy marn a gwella'r darpariaeth. Dwi hefyd yn gweithio fel llysgennad i Brifysgol yn creu cynnwys digidol i sicrhau fod defnydd cyfartal o'r Gymraeg a'r Saesneg ar ein gwefannau. Ac fel eich swyddog materion Cymraeg newydd, fy mhrif blaenoriaeth yw ehangu dealltwriaeth yr holl staff a myfyrwyr o'r Gymraeg. Dwi'n sicrhau fod pawb yn cael y cyfle i ddysgu a chymryd rhan mewn dathliadau Cymraeg. Dwi eisiau mwy o dryloywder rhwng y staff a myfyrwyr aml ddiwylliannol a drwy gydweithio ar undeb y myfyrwyr, y cymdeithasau ac adran y Gymraeg, gobeithio y gall pawb ddeall pwysigrwydd yr iaith i ni fel siaradwyr a phleidleisio y lles gwneud newid. So hi everyone, I'm Sophie and I'm currently a third year Welsh student. And I decided to run for the role as coming to Swansea and realising such little use of the Welsh by the university made me very passionate about wanting to make a change. I invited the Vice-Chancellor to my second year presentation regarding the use of the Welsh language and presented out key points I'd like to improve. I've attended meetings with student union representatives and the Welsh language compliance officers to voice my opinion. I currently work as a student ambassador where I focus on creating Welsh digital content for students, ensuring a healthy balance between the use of English and Welsh online. And as your new Welsh Affairs Officer, my main priority is to broaden the availability and the understanding of Welsh to all students and staff, so everybody has the opportunity to learn and participate in Welsh celebrations. I want more transparency between the multicultural staff and students, so by collaborating with the union, the students, the Welsh Society and departments, hopefully everyone can understand the importance of the language to us as Welsh speakers and to vote for me and have some change. Thank you.
Thank you both. So first we'll have the two questions then from the Students' Union. And of course, please be aware that you can of course answer these bilingually if you so choose. So the first question we have is, what does being Welsh mean to you and how would you share this with the student body? Beth ydy bod yn Gymraeg yn ei olgi I ti a sut fyddet ti'n rhannu hyn gyda myfyrwyr? And we'll start with Gwen. You're on mute.
As an individual who's moved around the country a lot, I've had to adapt to many different communities, but being Welsh has made every transition for me easier. As Welsh, we stick together, and no matter where I go, I feel like there's a sense of community. It's important that if I'm elected, that I use this experience of mine to welcome in the students from Wales to their first year, which can be daunting. It's important that they feel at home, and so I jump at all opportunities to ensure that they've settled in. I could do this by hosting well-being sessions and so forth, and also promoting Welsh language societies, which I've had experience of, and I would ensure that every first-year student coming to Swansea know about these societies because they've really helped me out during my time here in Swansea, and I want everyone else to have the same experience that I'm lucky to have had.
Thank you, Gwen. And Sophie?
Yeah, so being Welsh to me means really being grateful for my bilinguality and to be proud of our special country and all the battles that have been fought to keep our language alive today. I want to make sure, as noted earlier in my introduction, that Welsh is celebrated and appreciated by everyone in the university and not just by the people who can speak Welsh. I think one of the best things about being a student in Swansea is how multicultural the students are, and it's definitely something we all need to celebrate together. As one who speaks a minority language, I understand how important it can be and how uplifting it is to be able to communicate in your mother tongue. And I'm so proud of the Welsh community in Swansea. I want to add to this and be able to give back. This goes hand in hand with a few of my manifesto points. So my first point would be to establish a strong relationship with the education officer. Students are our main audience, and my main goal is to widen the scope of Welsh modules available across all courses. My point two is also to provide induction courses, compulsory for staff and optional courses for students in order to change the negative attitudes and educate people about the culture and the language, and it's important, especially officers, staff and students who work together with Welsh first language students, as it's key that they understand the importance of bilinguality to us. And I'd also like to work with the Welsh language policy officers as well to improve the standard and expand on the amount of Welsh across the university. especially within graduation ceremonies, and offering script reading for members of staff and for students so they can speak Welsh and know how to if they'd like to as well. Mae bod yn Gymraeg i fi yn golygu bod fi'n ddiolchgar ac yn falch o'n gallu gyfathrebu yn ddwyieithog ac yn gwlad arbennig a'r holl frwydrau sydd wedi gadw ein iaith ni'n fyw heddiw. Rwyf am sicrhau fel y nodwyd yn gynharach yn fy nghlwynad fod y Gymraeg yn cael ei dathlu a gwerthfawrogi gan bawb, nid yn unig y pobl sy'n gallu siarad Cymraeg. Un o'r pethau gorau am bod yn fyfyriwr yn Abertawe yw pa mor aml ddiwylliannol yw'r myfyrwyr, ac mae ben dant yn rhywbeth mae angen i ni gyd dathlu efo'n gilydd. Fel un sy'n siarad iaith leiafrifol, rwy'n deall pa mor bwysig yw i gallu gyfathrebu yn eich mamiaith heb boeni bod y person arall methu eich ateb. A mae hyn yn mynd law yn llaw ar rhai o fy mhwyntiau manifesto. Rwy eisiau sefydlu perthynas gref gyda'r swyddog addysg er mwyn cydweithio'n llwyddiannus. Myfyrwyr yw ein pwynt cryfan i yn y brifysgol, a fy mhrif nod yw ehangu faint o fodiwlau Cymraeg sydd ar gael ar draws bob cwrs. Yn ogystal â darparu cyrsiau sefydlu gorfodol a'r ddiwylliant i Gymru ar gyfer y staff a myfyrwyr er mwyn newid agweddau negyddol ac addysgu pobl am y ddiwylliant Cymraeg ag ein iaith bwysig i ni. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophie. And then the second question that we have from the union is, as a union, we run events for Welsh national holidays such as St. David's Day. How would you like to see Welsh culture celebrated all year round? Fel undeb, rydyn ni'n cynnal dywyddiadau ar gyfer gwyliau cenedlaethol Cymru fel dydd Gwyl Dewi. Sut hoffet ti weld diwylliant Cymru yn cael ei ddathlu trwy gydol y flwyddyn? And we'll start with Sophie.
Yeah, so I have nothing but thanks to our previous Welsh Affairs officers, Megan Colburn and Katie, because I think they've done a very good job of celebrating the St. David's National Holiday and other special days across Wales that we celebrate as well. Even in the COVID circumstances, Katie has made the St. David's Festival. And as per my manifesto point 4, I would like to improve on this and set up a Welsh Heritage Month so we celebrate all holidays and special days. For example, Siamai Day, Welsh Music Day, more celebrating of the Six Nations at rugby, it is our national sport. And also contribute more as a Welsh university to the national Eisteddfods, which are held every summer. And to involve all students in this, I'd hold more activities on campus if circumstances provide. For example, more Welsh gigs and taster sessions for all students on language and something like maybe cooking activities for the national foods. And one thing I'd like as well is trips around Wales to educate students and revisit monuments that are a big part of our history. As many of the things the uni offer at the minute in Welsh are just superficial gains, the bilingual signs, the bilingual emails, there is an element of Welsh language, but we must celebrate it and use it across all departments and units in the university, not just in the translation unit. Gen I ddim byd ond diolch i swyddogion materion Cymraeg blaenorol, oherwydd nhw wedi gwneud gwaith da iawn o ddathlu gwyliau cenedlaethol, hyd yn oed o dan yr amgylchiadau, gyda'r Gwyl Dewi Sant ac yn halwyd gan Katie ar y funud. Ond yn unol â fy mhwynt manifesto 4, hoffwn sefydlu mis treftadaeth Gymreig i ddathlu pob gwyl, pob diwrnod arbennig. Er enghraifft, diwrnod Siamai, diwrnod Music Gymreig a 6 clad fel rygbi ein gamp cenedlaethol, ac hefyd cyfrannu mwy fel Prifysgol Gymraeg i'r Eisteddfodau Cenedlaethol. Rwy eisiau cynnwys yr holl myfyrwyr yn y dathlu, felly fyddaf yn cynnig mwy o gweithgareddau ar campws, er enghraifft mwy o gigs Cymreig, mwy o sesiynau blasu Cymraeg, gweithgareddau coginio a teithau cenedlaethol Cymreig yn bennaf o amgylch Cymru i addysgu myfyrwyr ac i ail edrych ar ein hanes. Mae llawer o'r pethau sydd gennym ar y funud yn enillion arwynebol hawdd, arwyddion dwyieithog ac e-byst dwyieithog, ond mae'n rhaid i ni ddathlu'r Gymraeg i ddefnyddio ac ar draws pob adran ac uned yn y brifysgol, nid yr unig gyfieithu yn unig. Diolch.
Thank you, Sophie. And Gwern?
Well, as we're here in Swansea, a university in Wales, it's important that Welsh culture is an integral part of every student's experience here. As you said, with St. David's Day celebrated this week, as we all know, thanks to Katie's planning, hopefully by the time that my role begins, there will be an opportunity to bring these days to life. It's important that we raise awareness and pride in our history and traditions, while also demonstrating that Welsh is a modern language with a vibrant culture that has so much to offer to us young people, not just the old. By hosting events such as Dydd Santes Dwynwen, speed dating, for example, we can give a modern twist to old traditions for the entertainment of our students. Fel ni'n dweud, gan bod ni ma'n Abertawe, mae'n bwysig bod ni yn cael traddodiadau Cymru yn agos iawn at ni. A fi eisiau gwneud yn siŵr bod dim jyst ni y Cymru, ond hefyd pawb yn gallu celebrate o hyn. Gyda St David's Day, gyda Dewi Sant, fel oedd Katie di wneud wythnos yma, gobeithio erbyn i'r ro ddechrau blwyddyn nesaf, byddwn ni'n gallu mynd allan a bydde dynod yn gallu dod yn fyw, a byddwn ni'n gallu gwneud pethau mewn person. So cross fingers ar gyfer hwnna byddwn ni'n gweud. Mae'n bwysig bod ni'n codi bod pobl yn gwybod mwy amdano hyn, gan bod y Gymraeg yn iaith fodern, dim jyst yn iaith sydd wedi anghofio yn y gorffennol. A felly, o wneud digwyddiadau newydd fel Dydd Santa Swynwen yn rhoi twist arno fe, fel speed dating, bydd fwy o chance i ni cael bobl tu allan i Gymru, yn wedig y dysgwyr, i ymuno gyda ni i ddathlu pethau Cymreig.
Diolch both. And now let me see whether we have any questions from the floor. And I have a first question through. Obviously happy to repeat it as often as would be beneficial. So the first question we have is, how would you help raise awareness on the benefits of having a Welsh coordinator on society committees? So how would you help raise awareness on the benefits of having a Welsh coordinator on society committees? And we'll start with Gwen.
Well, unfortunately for me, I've only been a part of one society, and that's the Welsh Society. So I haven't got any personal experience from being on a society that doesn't have one of these Welsh coordinators. But if I was to be a part of a society, being Welsh myself, I would like to have someone to represent us. With the emails, stuff like that, I always read the Welsh side of it. And it's important that we're treated equally and the same as everyone else. So I believe the idea of bringing the Welsh coordinator in, which I've seen they've done in the Geography Society, which I think is brilliant. The Welsh people can feel like they're a part of the society as much as English-speaking people are. So that's all I've got to say, as I haven't got any personal experience from it. But I believe that it is a very good idea to instill this.
Thank you very much. And Sophie?
Yeah, so without repeating what Gwen said, I do agree with every point he's made. They're very valuable. And I think as well, it's important for students that can't speak Welsh to not feel like they aren't a part of maybe, for instance, the Welsh Society, or like Gwen said, for instance, the Geography Society, that they can speak both languages. It brings the society to like a new level, a new ground. And that's possible then for them to communicate or enter in competitions and work across Wales and further out, so they can branch with a lot more universities. And I think that's why it's important that we have the coordinator. I'm a part of the Netball Society, but only the Welsh netball team as well. But I think now, being on the Welsh netball team, I can obviously umpire a game within 2 languages, which I think is a really good skill. If we were to go across Wales, the coordinator on the team could then umpire for 2 universities in their home language. And you can also educate people on different terms, and obviously people can learn and pick up the Welsh language that way as well. So I think it's a good idea.
Fabulous, thank you. And then the second question that we have from the floor is, do you have anything in mind on how to support Welsh learners? So just to repeat that, do you have anything in mind on how to support Welsh learners? And we'll start with Sophie.
Yeah, so as I said earlier, I did note in point 1 and 2 of my manifesto. So point 1 is I would like more Welsh modules available. I know in my course, as I study Welsh, I had the opportunity to study 20 credits in any other language, Spanish, French, German, and I think we need one of them in Welsh as well, like a beginner's course. And I also want to provide compulsory induction courses for staff and optional courses for students. And just not a course as in you don't have an exam on the end, nothing big, and it's nothing to worry about, but it's just something a bit of fun for you to learn and appreciate, and to learn a new skill before leaving uni in the country you've studied. And I think if I came to Wales, I want to know the importance and why all these signs that I can't really read are put everywhere, kind of thing. Yeah, so I think the courses, and I think it'd be more fun, like more games and interactions. And maybe then afterwards, I'd have a group on campus where you just meet up and be able to speak to Welsh students as well, to use the skills that you've learned in them courses.
Thank you. And Gwen?
Yeah, obviously there's a higher level of students now in the university that are learning and are interested in the language. I'll ensure that plenty of opportunities are available for all people, whether learners or people who've just come in to Wales and are just genuinely interested in our language. One of my hopes is to let learners practice their Welsh in an informal way by holding such as pop-up sessions on both campuses. I feel like having an informal way of learning a language might be of more benefit, because I think if we move away from the formal side of learning Welsh, some people are put off by that. So if we can have fun while learning the language, making it an event, I feel like we'd get more people involved, and more people might actually think, oh yes, I actually will learn the Welsh. I will try and learn a few words here and there, as it is a big part of our country. And I think if you do come into the university, I think you would have you'd want to have a bit of an idea of what's going on around you. So yeah, that's what I got to say really. I think yeah, we definitely need to focus on helping these learners out, because it's great to see so many people learning, and yeah, it does really put a smile on my face.
Thank you both. As somebody that is trying to learn Welsh, I look forward to seeing what either of you will then have available for me to not lose practice next year. Thank you very much, both of you, for all of the information that you provided us tonight, and I look forward to seeing your campaigns next week, as with all of our other candidates. Just a reminder for everybody watching that your Welsh Affairs Officer candidates are Gwern Davis and Sophie Williams. Thank you both. If at this time you could please turn off your cameras, and then if I could invite our Sports Officer candidate to turn on their camera, please. So welcome. Just in case anybody doesn't know, we have Georgia Smith here, who is running for Sports Officer. And so Georgia and I'll have a little conversation about sports now. So for starters, we will have a minute for Georgia to just give a little introductory speech. So let me just share the timer, and then Georgia, whenever you're ready, please feel free to start.
Thanks, Jerry.
Here we go. So whenever you're ready.
Good evening, Noswaith Da. The most challenging thing for me as sports officer this year has been the fact that sport has been so off and on, but I feel like through these challenging times, I've been able to support our club committees and prove myself to be a hardworking and resilient FTO. I've shown that I've been able to put online activity through putting on mental health and sport workshops with over 60 students taking part, and really showing that we care about student athlete mental health at Swansea University. I've also made sure that when we can, we have put on in-person activity. I encourage the sports teams to get involved in the Movember campaign, where we managed to put on 3 COVID-safe sports tournaments, which allowed clubs to recruit new members and also put on activity for the wider university community. If I was re-elected as sports officer, I want to prioritise returning of sport and the student experience. I will make sure that the university upholds and fulfils and reaches the target set within their active Sports Swansea strategy, and remove any potential barriers to participation for students in sport. And I would love for you all to read my manifesto and consider voting me in again.
Thank you very much. So now we'll move on to 2 questions posed to you by the Students' Union. Our first question is, this year has made participation in sports difficult. How would you support clubs in starting back up again?
This is a great question. Thank you, Jerry. So all of our clubs, all 56 of them, they are self-governed, they're self-run, they're run by students. So the most important thing would be to make sure that our new committees feel supported in their roles. So I'd start off by making sure that our clubs have had a thorough handover and that they understand what they're doing. So that would mean setting up meetings with new committees over the summer, going through their handover documents with them, identifying if there are any gaps in current committees, if they need to run referenda when we start the term again, to make sure that they feel confident in their roles and putting on activity when the term starts up back up again.
As sports officer, I'll stay up to date with all COVID guidance around sport because, as we know, it's ever changing. 1 week we got sport, 1 week you haven't. So it'll be my job to make sure that I stay up to date and informed and relay that to our clubs. When I started the role way back in June, we made sure that our clubs had COVID officers. And even though COVID, hopefully we're on the way out of it now, if we still felt that the COVID officers were necessary, I would encourage that as a role on committee this year as someone to keep up to date with the guidance as well and hopefully get back to training again. I would make sure that captain's training would be extremely thorough at the start of the year. We did it virtually this year, but also I think doing it in person, you do get to have that in-person interaction with the clubs. And I would love to have a thorough 2 to 3 day event again at the start of term. The most important thing as well for clubs getting back up on their feet is making sure that they have members. So that would include a joint union and university approach to promoting getting involved in sports teams. And that might be through utilising our student union website better, and promoting all the activities that all our sports clubs do, and just really making sure that everyone at university knows how they can get involved in a sports team. Clubs, they're creatures of habits. They know how to run sport, and everyone is just itching to get back to playing the sports that they love. So for me, it's about empowering the committees to get back to doing their jobs the way that they used to be able to do them. So that'd be through supporting the new committees, allowing them to access facilities as and when, and keeping up to date with the COVID guidance. And making sure that they have members to engage with the activities when it can go on, through promoting all the opportunities to all students across the university. So that's hopefully how I can get sport back up on their feet.
Thank you, Georgia. And the second question from the union is, it has been proven that sports have a number of physical and mental benefits. How do you plan to encourage student participation in sports?
So this links in really well to my manifesto, because I feel that we want to try and remove any perceived barriers to getting involved in sport at university, whether that be cost, whether that be being slightly daunted about joining a sports team or club. And I think we can start doing that by perhaps targeting the students who might be slightly on the fence about getting involved in physical activity at university. Maybe we should throw the word sport out the window and focus on physical activity, well-being and wellness. And it links really well into the Sports Swansea Active University strategy, which has been split into 3 strands. One strand which is about focusing on elite performers, the middle strand around competitive sport, and the third strand around trying to get people more involved in recreational activity. And getting people involved in sport would include an activity-based calendar around physical activity. So having physical activity-based events, whether that be a fun run, whether that be dodgeball on the green outside Fulton, just bringing the enjoyment back into sport rather than seeing it as this massive competitive thing, because all of our clubs, obviously, they love to get involved in bucks. That's something they really enjoy. But for me, we need to target the students who are perhaps slightly more worried or slightly unsure about getting involved in sport or physical activity at Swansea, and targeting events towards them. I'd also make sure that, like I said, people might be, sorry, headphones falling out, slightly concerned about joining a sports team. So I want to equip our committee members with appropriate additional training around equality and diversity, and about making our clubs more accessible, around both sports, people with disabilities joining sports teams at Swansea, and just making sure that they're able to talk to all students from different demographics in the university about getting them involved in their sports team. Another point on my manifesto is to try and make a student hardship fund for sport, so that if students do have financial hardship, there's a specific pot of money there for people who are passionate about joining a sport at university, and hopefully then they will be able to dip into that fund and be able to join the sports team they desire if they haven't necessarily got the funds to do so themselves. So there's I've rambled on a lot about a lot of stuff there, but it really is just about trying to make people feel comfortable about getting involved in sport in our community.
Thank you, Georgia. And let me just see if we have any questions from the floor for you. And I can see that a first one has come through. So first up, we have, What are your plans for expanding disability in sport in Swansea next year? Just to repeat that, what are your plans for expanding disability in sport in Swansea next year?
That's a great question, and it's something that myself and Katie have started work on this term. So like I touched on in the previous question, I want to make sure that there is additional information and a Canvas module available for our student committees and student leaders to make sure that they are informed about potential prejudice or ableism, and making sure that they're aware of how they're communicating with perhaps students with additional needs, and making sure that those students do feel comfortable about joining a sports team at Swansea. So giving the committees the tools to support people joining their club. I also want to forge better relationships with the Disability Office, and we've started that through our work with the sports strategy. I've got in touch with students at staff in the Disability Office and building up a relationship there, so I can communicate, or whoever the sports officer is can communicate directly with the Disability Office and let them know what opportunities are available. So about spreading the word around different opportunities that people with disabilities can get involved in, and also lobbying to get funding for perhaps training opportunities for club committees or anyone who wants to get involved in sport at Swansea, and relating that back to perhaps coaching people with disabilities, or just a campaign around disability sport in general, such as perhaps running a blind football tournament or getting links with like community disability sport and seeing how we can tie that into the university.
Thank you, Georgia. And we have a second question as well for you, and that is, how would you help sports clubs and societies work together on projects and or events? So just to repeat that, how would you help sports clubs and societies to work together on projects and or events?
I think that will start with fostering a really good relationship with our Societies and Services Officer. So myself and Georgia Rose this year, it's been slightly harder to work together from working from home, but going forward into next term, thinking about could there be joint campaigns that we can get all of our clubs involved in? Could that be perhaps fundraisers? Because at the minute we can do like separate fundraisers, but if we all lobbied and brought all our energies together, we could raise a record amount of money, well, get our clubs and societies to raise a record amount of money for charities. And just seeing like what the needs of societies are and what the needs of the sports clubs are, and seeing if like we could do joint stuff, whether that be joint social events, joint use of union spaces, and just kind of creating more of a united community, rather than it being sports and societies. So bringing people together on the extracurricular stuff, and it really hones into my point on my manifesto around making Wednesday afternoons an afternoon for the whole student body, the whole student experience, not just sports clubs who are getting involved competitively in sport, but getting people in societies involved with activities such as the recreational stuff that we've been talking about, so getting them involved in yoga. So it's not just sports do sports, but we get the whole student body involved in Wednesday afternoons. So hopefully that's helped kind of answer the question on how I think we could work more collaboratively with societies.
Thank you very much, Georgia, and thank you for your thoughtful answers to all of the questions that we've had tonight. Just a reminder for everybody watching that your sports officer candidate is Georgia Smith. If at this time you'd like to turn off your camera, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jerry. Thanks, everyone.
So just wanted to take the opportunity to say thank you very much to all of our candidates here this evening and for joining us for our second night of Hustings. Just a reminder that voting will open on Monday, the 8th of March at 11 a.m. So that's just a few days away. Make sure that you go to www.swansea-union.co.uk/elections to read up on the candidates' manifestos, which will be available from sometime tomorrow afternoon or evening. Thank you for being here. Good night. Nosta.